and welcome. I bet there's no one out there that would know what this is from.
Agreed. So you're right.
No, I don't think I would know where it's from.
No,
to be honest.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't have either.
No, I do like it though.
Me too.
And if you've seen the movie Killing Zoe or Zoe, it would be fitting for this
Yeah,
movie.
absolutely.
So thank you for everyone for tuning in to Real Talk. I'm Adam tonight. With me is,
Casey, what's up?
and we did a great job last time. I really enjoyed that.
I did too. I thought it went super.
Yeah, so thanks for coming back. Now we have a great show lined up and a really good movie that I'm glad we revisited.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you go back and watch the Clay Pigeons episode, we were discussing Eric Stoltz.
Somehow,
I
I still don't. I don't even. I think we must have been talking old school actors. Maybe
It had to
I
have
can't
been.
remember.
But somehow Eric Stoltz came up and we were naming some of his movies.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, he's not been in a lot of movies. Then we named quite a few, but they were small parts.
Yes.
Now, Eric Stoltz also, for those that know cinema, he was the original Marty McFly.
Yeah.
And he filmed 2 or 3 weeks on that project. I guess they saw the footage. He was too serious for the role.
Sure.
So they got rid of him.
Which you can kind of see when you see his roles. Even this one.
Yeah. And have you seen the test footage from him in the back?
No.
Well, give it a watch sometime. It's on YouTube, and you can tell that he is too serious.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see the exact same scene that we've grown to love.
Yeah.
And memorize in our lives, played by another actor.
Sure.
Know, and think this could be completely. It'd be like if Tom Selleck. There's some screen test of Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones.
Whoa.
With the
fedora. That just doesn't even seem right.
It seems like, have you ever seen the Last Action Hero with Arnold?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
So in that movie, he actually goes into the kid goes into one of his movies, and inside the movie, it's like Stallone is on the poster for Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it's things like that. So that would kind of be like one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly in all three Back to the Futures.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't even seem right as we talk about it.
And Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox would be starring in Killing Zoe.
Yeah, which just
can you imagine that?
Not even remotely.
Now, on a different note, before we get in, if you've never seen the movie, it's Michael J. Fox and James Woods' The Hard Way.
The Hard Way.
It's an action comedy from 1991, but it's a really good movie.
Yeah,
and it's an R-rated buddy comedy.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox is a Hollywood actor who wants to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So he wants to star in this cop movie.
That's what I was thinking. So
But
he tags along.
He tags along to the rough and tumble James Woods.
Yes.
And it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a little long. I'd say that's my criticism of quite a few movies. But it's about 10 to 15 minutes, I think, too long.
Yeah.
But it's still a solid movie. So The Hard Way. Check that out. But anyway, we have Killing Zoe tonight. So Zed, an American safecracker, arrives in Paris to help a childhood friend, Eric, rob a bank. That's simplistically what it is.
It's a bank heist movie.
Now, I did look on IMDb, and it had a long list of the synopsis. So I simplified what it was. But it's pretty much... So it has Eric Stoltz, Julie Delpy, and Jean-Hugh Englund.
That's pretty good.
I don't know. Directed by Roger Avery, and Roger Avery. Now I don't know if you knew this. I know you were looking up the movie as well, but he won the Academy Award along with Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
and this was one of his first directed movies after Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And he's also directed the highly underrated movie Rules of Attraction.
Yeah, and we mentioned that movie came up last time, which may have been Howie. I don't remember.
Because Eric Stoltz happens to be a teacher.
In the movie.
In Rules of Attraction.
See, maybe
also.
that's how it all came about, because that's a great movie, too.
Yeah, it is. And that's another movie that most people that I've ever talked to have never seen.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, it's a great movie. The
And,
film works great. The whole way it's shot is fantastic.
And it's very unique, and it made I never watched Dawson's Creek or anything like that. I knew of it, but I didn't watch it, so I didn't associate James Van Der Beek. I associated him with that, but never because I'd watched it, just because
right. Not the character, but just the name.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
So when I saw him, I didn't go into any preconceived notions of his acting abilities, but when I saw Rules of Attraction, he's not a likable character in the movie.
No.
And he does a fantastic job, and I was really surprised he didn't get better roles after that.
No, I know.
So I guess because no one really saw the movie.
Yeah, that's too bad. That is definitely a good one.
Yeah, we'll have to do that one maybe in the future.
Sure.
Shine some light on it. So Killing Zoe, the budget was $1.5 million. It made only $418,000.
Yeah, totally bombed.
36% Rotten Tomatoes, 64% audience approval. Did you read any of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews of it?
Not really.
A lot of it's had to do with the excess violence.
Sure.
And,
well, one review I did read was Roger Ebert's from back in '94.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned that, but when there was a lot of movies like that, because again, like the '90s, there's a lot of Tarantino films that came out during that time, and they're all pretty. That's pretty staple.
Yeah, and then you had like Natural Born Killers,
sure,
which was written by Tarantino.
Yep.
You did have a lot of hyper violence movies, and it just seemed the norm.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that it was.
Sure. Well, and when I watched it now, those were probably reviews. I wonder, but when were those reviews even written? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes wasn't around when the movie came out,
right.
Or maybe it was. No, honestly,
it didn't come. Rotten Tomatoes. This was a weird fact. A movie called Your Friends and Neighbors, which is very. That might be one to get into. You might actually be a good one to discuss that with. But anyway, that was the first movie of Rotten Tomatoes, which was 1998.
Oh wow! See, so I'm wondering, are those reviews based on people that watched it outside the '90s? Because when I watched it today, I didn't find it to be really ultra violent as opposed to any number of
anything that you could see today.
No, not at all, really.
No. And even some violence that you might even see on TV.
No, right? Yeah, it was
like actual cable TV. If anyone has,
and even the violence, it's not really graphic. There's some graphic scenes, mind you, but it's not. It's more the lead up to the bank heist, where some of the graphic stuff's at. But it's the suggested.
Exactly.
You don't see the woman get shot in the head. The camera kind of cuts away and then cuts back. So it's Whereas today, if that was released today,
you might see
it might be a little more graphic. But
I remember it being more violent. It wasn't as violent as I remember it being. I thought it was more violent when I was younger.
Oh, sure.
I mean?
Well, yeah, because we put it in context, so we must have been
I was probably
17, maybe.
I was probably 15 when I saw it the first time.
Yeah,
probably mid-20s the second time.
Yeah, so it's probably around 17.
I've seen it twice before today because I watched it again this morning.
Yeah.
And so this is my third.
I had seen it. Well, I remember the first time I watched it, the movie really struck me. It was the first time I was introduced to Tarantino.
Right.
And really involved with anything. And it's one of the first movies that really captured my interest in filmmaking.
Okay.
I think even back then, because the way the movie's shot is great. The cinematography and it's great. You can tell it's low budget. Probably not very many cameras.
But it plays into it, I think. It
very
adds to this grittiness.
Yes, well, because it's a pretty fast-paced movie.
Yes.
Really. It starts off kind of slow, but once Eric knocks on that hotel room door, it's off and running.
Yeah.
At that point, and it's fifth gear
the whole way,
all the way through the rest of it.
especially every scene that Eric is in,
Yeah.
because he's just chaotic from the moment he walks through the
Yeah.
door. I mean,
stop.
he's in the house, he's in the apartment. Probably, I rewatched the scene twice. He's in the apartment or the hotel, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably 15 seconds before he goes in and drags her out of the shower.
Yeah.
And it's chaos from then.
Okay, the whole movie.
The whole movie.
Yep.
Because of him.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So what was interesting is the movie, looking at it, and this was something that Roger Avery had stated, looking at the movie on paper for, the theatrical release, you would think this is a flop. This didn't make any money. But he said the only reason that it even went to the theatrical release was because you need 50 theaters to be able to be released in Walmart and Blockbuster Video.
Wow.
And he said he knew that was where the money would be made. So they put it in 50 theaters.
Yeah.
No marketing campaign, zero. They said $0.
Yeah.
Still made $500,000 almost. And then he said, he's one of the producers on this movie made more money on this one than they did True Romance, which was a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. Right.
And it was due to Walmart and Blockbuster, which was a huge, kind of like streaming would be today.
It was probably heading into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
was the 90s,
I never had really. I remember reading about it because I subscribed to Entertainment Weekly. I would get it every week, and I loved it because it was a weekly magazine. Except occasionally they would have a double issue, and you would only get one for 2 weeks, and I would be upset because I really liked that magazine.
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned about it. But I went to the video store, and I was going through a Tarantino phase renting Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
And
I went through a Tarantino phase as well.
Every time that I would pass the, up to the checkout, the Killing Zoe VHS box, which is what I posted earlier, I would always look at it.
Yeah.
And I would always be like, I want to rent that. I want to rent. And I did rent that one day.
Yeah.
And I was glad I did.
Yeah.
And but what's funny though is the picture, which shows Eric Stoltz, it looks like with a machine gun, and Eric in the background. I never remember Eric Stoltz yelling like that through that little circle.
No.
Like, does he ever really yell like that?
Yeah, no.
Here it is for those wondering.
Because I remember looking at that too and being like,
and he doesn't have glasses on that much in the movie.
No.
So
it's a little misleading.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. So that's why I almost didn't post that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it is misleading.
A little bit.
But in my mind, that's the first physical image I saw of that movie. So, a little nostalgic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, another thing, this film seems to take place in Paris, but it was shot in LA minus the first and the last road sequence.
The opening and the closing.
Yeah, opening and closing. Which, like we mentioned before, before we went on live, it looks like a straight foreign production.
Yeah, it looks like a French cinema movie.
Yeah.
Which, we had talked earlier about it, right down to the point that most of the dialogue in the movie is in French.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, when I watched it this time, I've seen the movie a lot of times. Like, I was surprised when I rewatched it how well I actually remember the movie.
Okay.
But so I'd seen it with subtitles too, but I didn't, this time, the rewatch, I didn't have the subtitles. And I'd forgot just how much of it was in French. But as we had talked before, it's interesting because Zed's character doesn't speak French.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you it's almost like going along for that ride where you're right there with his confusion too. You could see him looking at people, he doesn't know what's going on.
And that's a great point. To be honest with you, I hadn't thought of that point until you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
It puts you into the driver's seat, which is Zed.
Yeah.
And you're just this American that happens to be thrust into this chaotic
mad chaos.
Madness. Yeah, mad chaos.
Yeah, because to be clear, the movie is definitely a chaos, drug-fueled bank heist
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
You know, and like the Roger Ebert he mentioned, it was the first like bank heist caper movie of the 90s. He referred to it as like the film generation.
Yeah.
So people like, you know, Tarantino, all these people that I mean, and again, you know, I hadn't thought about it at the time, but it captured my interest as far as filmmaking as an art form. Even though it's ultra violent, it's still really good.
Yeah.
I think it's full of great acting. I mean, honestly, it gets kind of a slight, but honestly, some of the acting right down to there's a scene where Eric takes, I guess maybe the bank manager, a couple of people downstairs. He's trying to get him to open the vault.
Yep.
And he's threatening to, you know,
It takes those three people.
takes the three people down. And he keeps threatening to kill somebody. And you can see the guy's like losing his mind because there's nothing he can do about it. It's extremely believable.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's
Is that when
intense.
he has the two guys and the lady?
And the lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, man, that's
And that's-
extremely believable.
Especially for the background actors.
Yeah.
Because they just have a few lines.
Exactly. Like that's the only, they're in the movie all of 5 minutes
Yeah.
maybe. Of
And I
actual
didn't
film
think,
time.
I thought that was that's a good point you brought up. All the acting in the movie is good.
Yeah. It's,
I don't remember thinking.
No, it's very believable. Well, and because like where it's drug fueled, part of the film work was great too because there's constant like the screen gets hazy, the camera does, or kind of blunted in some kind of way. But listen, I've done a lot of drugs in my life, and so I'm watching this movie, and when I'm watching it, I'm like, it's so believable. Like you have to wonder. Like I was wondering when I was watching the movie, I was like, are they really like high doing
Like
this?
what drugs have they done to
pre-scene
Yeah.
because it's extremely believable. I was like, I think I've been in that. I think I felt that way at a time or two, you know. But no time recently, might as well have time. But yeah, it was just to the point that it's extremely believable. Extremely believable. Blows my mind.
Yeah. So as we stated, we'll get right in. Plot story. What did you think of that?
You know, it's a bank heist movie, so it's a bank heist movie.
Yeah.
But
They added a little meat on it with the introduction of Zoe. I thought, which was it put risk in there, but you didn't realize at first why she's in there.
right,
And spoiler alert, but she comes into the picture. She gets upset when he refers to her as a prostitute.
yeah, yeah.
She's I forgot what she calls herself.
Like escort,
Escort, yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's paying for college.
right?
And she happens to be working at the bank 3 days a week that they're about to rob.
They're about to rob,
He doesn't know this, neither does she,
right?
because they've just all known each other an hour or so.
Right,
so like,
right.
You know,
Yeah, and it's basically boy meets girl, and they fall in love or something, or she does at least initially.
Yeah.
But it's weird because like they seem to get along really well, but then Eric comes busting in, and that whole scene throws her out, and Zed's just kind of like
he doesn't do anything about
not a
it.
damn thing. He's putting his shoes on, you know, and you're like,
'Cause
wow, like,
it was funny because he says, I really like that girl, and then Eric says, well, why didn't you do anything about
yeah,
it? And I thought the exact same
yeah. I
thing.
was like,
If a guy just
Weird.
came in, a friend that I hadn't seen in 11 years, barges in,
yeah,
walks in, throws the girl that I'm seeing. He doesn't know what really. He doesn't,
know. Yeah,
Just throws a naked girl in the shower
straight out in the hallway.
in the hallway. I would be like,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
what the F do you think you're doing? Stop!
yeah, something. But no, he's just like getting ready,
And he doesn't even seem. He just, he doesn't really seem mad.
No,
And then Eric just doesn't even really acknowledge she's outside screaming, "Oh, her clothes, her clothes!"
yeah,
He hands her the clothes, closes the door.
no, because Eric's whole character operates in like tunnel vision.
Yes,
Because again, from that point on, the movie it's intense at points, man. Because I mean, it's fast. It's just fast, and things are happening fast. And you can see Zed's character is just like, and again, because the movie starts, one of the first things, and he's trying to find out what time it is. Zed, he never does find out what
No.
time it is. So he comes in like jet lagged.
well, the cab driver says some smart ass response. It's daytime or
Daytime.
something.
And then the concierge guy or whatever in the hotel just responds in French,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know.
After he leans over. And,
Yes, and tell you what is that?
That was a nice little touch.
Yeah, exactly. I was
Because he's like, how much? And then because he just like,
reaches in the wallet.
and pulls it out.
Yeah.
Another little interesting touch, which was a little bit of dark humor, was when they, I guess they were going to Eric's place or maybe to meet the guys, and there's the dead cat.
Yes,
I don't remember that from. I don't remember.
I remembered it once I watched it again. If that makes sense. Like I'd forgot about that scene, but yeah,
I rewatched it twice, and he steps on the cat, but not enough to really like squish it.
yeah,
But the way he does it, it's very comical.
yeah. No, it's dead.
And he's
Let's
like,
go.
I think it's asleep. It's been there 3 days. But you can obviously tell by looking at it,
Yeah.
at the dead cat.
Yeah,
And then they but the camera angle, if you notice, is lower than too.
yeah.
It's not approaching them at usually mid-level.
No, right.
It's more so at their feet at the cat,
Yeah,
which makes you be able to see this is a dead cat.
that's a dead cat.
And then they walk on.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a nice little 2-minute scene that
No,
they.
it's full. It's full of a bunch of cool little scenes. Again, some of them, get disturbing down through there. Well, because there's a definite. Well, it's brought up early on once he gets with Eric, with the male prostitutes on the street that they're hollering out.
Right.
And then they're all half joking about it, of course, and you find out Eric's character has AIDS in the movie, which seems appropriate given the years.
Very
that came out.
90s.
Very 90s, because we're talking what, like, I can't remember the Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Right around the same time,
Yeah,
I want to say.
yeah.
So,
The year before.
yeah. So,
Or actually
that's
the same
of
year, 93.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, definitely a topic. And so, but it also kind of plays into, I wonder, Eric's, because he's got this like death wish. Well, lying undertone of the movie, it's only mentioned a couple times. Basically, they're like revolutionaries, like terrorists, basically.
Yeah, he says
they're
that-
talking about bombing places
Yeah.
and stuff, and they come across like that in the bank. You know what I mean? It's just like this going
Like a
out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
kind of
this
stuff.
complete circus.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give the plot and the story a solid. What did we score last time? Out of 10, or did we do it? Do you recall?
I want to say it was
Out of 5?
I want to say it was a 5.
5. I'll give plot and story a good. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
well, because it's a good story.
Yeah.
And the plot's good.
yeah.
And it's got it's good.
And we've spoke a little bit about the characters, but did you have a favorite character?
Honestly, overall, I'd kind of have to say Zed. It's weird because I watched it and you almost half identify. It's kind of easy to identify with Zed's character.
Yeah.
Especially like when I watched it later in life, like today, having lived the life I've lived up and
Right.
to this point, and situations and things I've experienced. And so I'm watching it, and you're watching like Zed, you get the feeling like he's this nice guy, and just gets swept up in this stuff. Because at one point he thinks he's going to die, and they haven't even. This is the first night. You know what I mean? Because it's so drug fueled, and these guys are just off the chain. And
Yeah,
they're just
going full
packing
speed.
him full of stuff. And like in the beginning, he's like, no, I'm all right. And then it's just off and running.
Because you get the idea
lot
that,
of heroin.
that he had no idea that it was going to be this kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe smoke some pot, do some hash.
Yeah, because in the beginning he's like, the hash is cool,
Yeah.
but then it's very much about heroin,
Yeah.
which also seems appropriate to time frame of movies, because it kind of that put me in mind of like movies like Trainspotting, which I
Yeah.
can't think as far as years. In
That was
comparison,
96. Was that
so
one?
again, within a couple of years, another movie very much about heroin use
Yeah,
and stuff. you
yeah.
know, so that kind of stuff was a topic.
Yeah.
Apparently,
A big
movies at the
movie
time.
topic too. Mm-hmm. And some really good movies too.
Yeah,
Some really good movies.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that it would have it because Zed does come across as a nice guy. He doesn't do any. I don't even think he goes into this bank heist even thinking fully that someone could be murdered.
No, well, because the way it's sold to him it's loosely mentioned in the plot is like they're robbing this particular bank because it's Bastille Day.
Yeah.
All the other banks around are supposed to be closed except for this one. So their plan is we go in, just basically close the doors, lock it, bank's closed. Nobody thinks anything of it. It's full of people. And Zed's character immediately gets basically just swept downstairs. I mean, a couple of people are killed right when they go in.
Yeah.
But then he's like, 2-3 floors down or whatever.
And he has no idea.
Clueless as to what's going on in the rest of the place, which is interesting. He's just kind of in his own little world.
Because you would have to think that because at one point, I think it's Eric knows what's going on a little bit later. Zed's still down there. Zed stops trying to get in. They listen. Nothing. But Eric goes back up. I think that's when the police come or something.
Yeah.
But not Eric, but Zed really is clueless about anything.
Yeah.
He thinks it's all going according to plan.
Yeah.
Which is really not much of a plan to begin with.
No, because it all goes to hell. Well, because they're all, you can see it even in the movie. The drug use doesn't stop even during the bank heist.
No.
There's still, there's the scene where Eric's in the bathroom. They're doing coke, looking out the window. Once they see the cops, of course, they start freaking out.
And Eric's eyes continue to get more red.
Yes, and just you can see the mind is just it's out of control.
Well, that was another interesting thing about the movie. The deeper in the bank the characters go, the darker the red.
Yes, I noticed that. I noticed that as well.
Yeah,
and that the movie is full of just solid, like bold colors in the room, like at the bank. Because again, like the whole it's all solid red.
Some of the heist member, the gang or what the crew, their loft is like a blue.
Yeah,
like a deep blue.
Yeah.
And it did have some vivid imagery and colors.
It sure does, bold for sure.
Yeah, which I think as we get into the bank, it's representing that there's going to be a lot of bloodshed.
Yeah,
which there is.
There is.
I don't know the body count, but there is, and it like you mentioned earlier, it doesn't show at least half of it. It doesn't.
No, it sure doesn't.
It was not nearly as violent as I remember it.
The most graphic injury or whatever, honestly, that I saw in the whole movie was the guard at the end. It was inside the vault.
Yeah,
and he's all like half burned. That was the most.
And he has to hold his
thing.
hand. Yeah,
and that's the only person because a bunch of people get killed. And Zed at one point gives up his gun, gives it back to Eric, and Eric's like, "I don't give a shit about the gun."
Yeah,
and he has no gun through the whole thing, and a bunch of people die. Eric Stoltz is a nice guy. There's the one person he killed in the movie, and he ends up shooting the guard.
Yeah,
and that's it. But that was by far the most graphic
part
of the whole movie,
I agree.
except for the scene in the bathroom that I'm now going to bring up, and Eric Stoltz is puking. That's fairly, but even that is, I mean, in today's standards, it's kind of like, no.
Exactly. So the characters, I like Zed. Now I thought the actor and the character was so dislikable. Mm-hmm. That the job of the actor was totally fulfilled.
Oh yeah,
because you saw this character, like you couldn't really take your eyes off of him.
No,
but everything he did was horrible. Throwing the naked lady out. Even pretty much barging in, saying let's go.
Yeah,
not having a full plan. Kind of a half-assed plan, a drug-fueled plan.
Yeah.
And then if you were coming up with this scheme, with this bank heist, even if, I can't say because I'm not in his position, but I would imagine that you would want to be in the most right mind that you could possibly be in.
You would think.
But maybe they're drug addicts and they live like they do, but they possibly they need that
to function.
Yes. And even more so for the adrenaline to get through this.
Yeah. No, it all seems very, like, I don't know, because again, like you said, you want to be in your right mind, but you see throughout the movie with the heroin, he's like Eric, he's like half fades in and out, you know what I mean? But no, the acting jobs are great.
And they wake Eric up right away. Hey man, let's get up and go.
Yeah, and they're like ready to, and he's
take a dump and let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And then they cut to the next scene and they're pulling up to the bank.
They're pulling up to the bank, and it's super.
And I'm like, can you imagine? You're passed out. You probably have a hangover. All these other things. It has to be relatively early.
I would imagine.
you know, and then you're waking up, and then oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine that.
No, I can't either.
But yeah, I'd say they're strong characters.
I think so too. You know, and the Roger Ebert article suggested that the characters were underdeveloped. You know, maybe on paper,
Yeah.
perhaps, but as far as the actors, they seem like they seem like developed. Like the actors took time to develop whatever. Like Eric plays Eric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got the way he does his hair. You know, and it follows it to it. It's a solid character.
Yeah, I mean, he
plays
even
it
has
great.
like a strut when he's walking in the bank with his gun.
Yeah, like
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he inhabits that. Now, I'm sure I've seen that actor in other things.
I
because
think so too.
His name looked familiar, but I'm sure he might be one of these character actors, you know, that goes the links. I don't know.
Oh, sure, that's possible.
But he also probably had shorter hair too, maybe.
Sure.
But he did a fantastic job
I
because
did too,
he
yeah.
played a character that you knew. You know he's not going to win. You know he's
Right.
not going to get out.
Yeah,
But how far will he take
Yeah,
it? How
yeah.
far will he get? And who will he drag down with him?
yeah.
You know.
Agreed.
And the supporting cast we were talking about, I can't. You mentioned him and we pointed him out. I don't have my IMDb up right here, but he had played in some other roles like the Bodyguard and a couple things I'd seen on his IMDb.
Yeah, I can't. His name slips my mind.
And his face was a familiar face sprinkled throughout the 90s.
Yeah. Played the
So-
character Oliver.
Yeah. And he has a weird line, unless I missed something.
His character is just strange because there's that whole scene where they're in the little jazz club thing. Turns out Eric plays trombone, which I thought was kind of corny.
Yeah.
honestly, in the movie, the scene itself was cool, but Eric with the trombone.
I gotta be honest, that's my least favorite scene.
Yeah,
The trombone, I thought it was a little hacky.
Yeah.
And I thought I understood the point of the scene, but I thought the scene could have been cut down.
yeah.
You
No,
know?
the coolest part of the scene was the all cartoony
Yeah.
notes because they're messed up or whatever. But that Oliver character, there's that weird exchange where I don't know, he's trying to be friendly, but he just comes off as like weird talking about Eric says you like Viking movies, and it's like, what? Like, I'll show you some Viking movies
And he asks
from
about
Norway.
the-
Yeah,
yeah.
the helmets, and it's like, where are the helmets? And then it's
Well,
like,
as he's
weird.
near his last scene on screen, he Zoe opens the door, and I guess it's the stairwell or something, and he's running out, and he says, "This is the best day of my life."
Yeah.
And then he says something about oxen.
And then gets shot.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, there's the other scene with him
he has some very odd dialogue.
where, yeah, it's weird. Where there's that other scene where Zed's gone into the vault, and he's trying to get him because they're already inside. They're going to come out through the front. And
Right.
He's just sitting there in the floor, out, and Zed's like banging. And I don't know. It's strange, weird dialogue he's
Yeah.
got too.
Maybe it's due to the fact they're all on drugs.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
but he had the weirdest dialogue that just out of left field.
Well, the movie's kind of full of that, and it's probably the drug
And
stuff. Because there's the one thing where they're talking about the Starship Enterprise
Yeah.
being something like representative of the human body or something
Yeah.
crazy, like just weird random stuff. It's like that, like, what is that movie? I want to say Very Hard Things or something, maybe.
Very Bad Things.
Very Bad Things, where it's like drug-fueled craziness. And
Have you watched that movie?
I have. That's another one. It's been a little bit, but
See-
it's like another like just like crazy.
Yeah, no one
fast-pacedness.
I've ever talked to has seen that, and
Yeah, that's a while ago.
it's a crazy movie.
Yeah, it
and not
is.
for everyone.
no, agreed. And Killing Zoe's not necessarily
No,
for everyone either.
No, not at all. You know, when I watch movies, I often think, what's the audience for this? And,
Right.
this is, I don't know. I mean, if you like bank heist movies,
Yeah.
this is a movie for you. But if you don't like subtitles, I think you could still enjoy it. 'Cause
I
you
think-
said you watched it.
No, I totally did because there's enough going on in the scene that it's a bank heist, so you can pretty much imagine what's going on. And
Yeah.
like even though Eric and this bank manager guy are going back and forth in French, you know that Eric's telling him to open the vault and he's telling him that he can't.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's understood. But yeah, the subtitles are worth watching it too. Like again, I don't remember the conversations, but I kind of wish I would have
Yeah.
picked up on it. But totally forgot how much French dialogue.
Me too. Me too. I'd totally forgotten that, and but it didn't take away
Nope.
at all. It really
Sure doesn't.
Some movies I think it does, but this movie, it didn't even. It didn't make me miss anything.
No, it's got a good French cinema
Yeah.
feel to it. It blows my mind. I didn't know that until they said it was done in LA, because it totally looks like it's.
Well, the story
France all around.
was that the producer Lawrence Bender, he was scouting locations for Reservoir Dogs, and it didn't work out. This bank didn't work out for the Quentin Tarantino movie, but he was like, if you need this, we have this. So Avery heard of the news, and he was like, hey, I've got a bank heist script. Let me get it to you. He went home, worked on it 3 or 4 days. Out came Killing Zoe, and they were filming. I'm sure there were probably multiple drafts later on.
Sure.
But initially, hey, I've got it. And that's sometimes all you need.
Yeah.
So that was smart. What about the score and the music?
Oh, I loved it. It was one of my favorite parts. It's one of those movies where there was parts that you feel like it's almost like the music's one of the characters. And again, back in the 90s, so it's kind of heavy, not heavy, but it's like techno-y. Kind of beats and stuff by these guys, Tom and Andy. And I can remember back in the day when I watched it, the music really stood out to me at the time, because there's moments where it just totally enhances the movie.
Yeah.
Like if you changed it, I don't, it would take away from it.
Well, even in the scene where it's right after Zed and Zoe make love, they're laying there having a discussion. He calls her.
There's another thing about that whole scene we need to mention too, but we'll talk about that after this.
But there's some good score in the background. It's odd though. When they're making love, it's an odd score. I like it.
It's an odd score, and the other visuals are weird.
They're cutting to Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, yeah. I'm not sure what.
I wasn't sure what
there was moments I was like, well, I can kind of understand maybe how this is working, because you can see as it goes through the scene, you can see Zed coming to climax basically, and as that ends, the Neferatu, it heading down the stairs and it's over.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I don't know. I thought I was like, this is a really kind of strange, cut scenes. So you're cutting from this old black and white to Zed to a topless Julie Delpy, back to the and it's like, what? This is strange.
Yeah,
and the music is all.
I wish I could find the exact same the music from that. Because that I do like the scene, and I do like the music.
Yeah.
But I can't really find it right off. But yeah, I suggest. I think it has a great score.
It is absolutely.
And like you said, it's got a 90. Everything about the movie and the score has a 90s feel to it.
It's very 90s. But listen, I like 90s stuff. Still to this day, I still feel like some of the best stuff that we still enjoy today came out of the 90s.
True cinema as we know it today, or that I love and know, was really born. It was, I'm
all about it. 90s movies, music. It's pretty solid.
Culture, everything.
It
stands the test of time.
Sure does.
I really.
See, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because when I started watching the movie, just randomly I decided, I was like, okay, bank heist movie. Like we mentioned earlier, we're having a hard time thinking of good bank heist movies. So when I started watching it, I went into it with the frame of mind like, I wonder if this could be re-released like today, as is, and be a good movie. And honestly, it probably could. I mean, if you updated, because other than the movie is dated because of the vehicles,
right.
But other than that, once they get into the bank and everything's going on, it could be any time.
It could be the only thing that they would have if you wanted to make it nowadays is they would somehow be like, oh, we're taking out the cell phone tower.
Yeah, sure.
But I do, a lot of shows and movies. If you take it like X-Files, for example, so many of the dilemmas that they had could have been solved. Hey, hey Scully, hey Mulder, with the cell phone. Right. So I do like the aspect that the cell phone isn't the answer.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Because really, if you do have that in real life, it could be the answer, but it's just going to cause more problems. Like, if you have the
Sure.
cell phone, the police are still going to arrive.
Yeah.
It's not going to add anything, you know.
Right.
They've already been triggered to come there. You're just going to call them again. Hey, we have more hostages than I thought.
Right.
So, but it is a very 90s movie, music, the way it looks, the way it's filmed.
Yeah.
But it like you mentioned earlier, it's its own character.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
the bank is its own character.
Yeah.
I guess it's supposed to be Paris.
Paris. Yeah. Even that.
And they both say both Eric and then Zoe both say, "Let me show you the real Paris."
Real Paris. Yes,
Yeah.
I picked up on that at the very
Yes,
end,
that was
too.
that was a cool little thing. Originality.
I mean, at the time, well, I don't know. It still seems pretty original to me, even when I watch it today. Even though bank heist movies are not necessarily a new thing,
Right.
But again, like when we think of bank heist movies, even I don't know. There's probably other drug fueled bank heist movies, but we're getting ready to do this show and we're trying to remember bank heist movies, and the only okay, I'm trying to think of what was the last good bank heist movie watching. The first thing that came to mind was Point Break.
Yeah.
But you talk bank heist movies, I don't know. That's almost like, is that the standard for? I don't know.
Right.
But,
Well,
and that's a good movie.
Here's a couple of bank heist movies that came out. Well, these are just ones, Out of Sight. That's have you watched that movie, the George Clooney movie?
Out of sight.
Jennifer Lopez. It's actually a good movie.
It seems like I have, but
It's 1998. Now, I know it does have bank robbing in the movie, but I don't know if I would call it a bank heist movie.
yeah. Well, see, I was getting ready to say that about even Point Break, because there's even a bigger, like the bank heist is even. I mean, it's part of the bigger story. Where it's Killing Zoe, it's just straight up bank. There's no other storyline going on than you just watch this group of people out of their minds, just
And that's why I think made it
crash
really,
and burn and take
really
a bunch of people out with
original. That's
Yeah.
why I thought, because a lot of the bank heist movies that I had seen, or heist, maybe not necessarily bank heist movies, but any kind of a movie where someone's trying to break in and take something, whether it be money, a microchip,
art, whatever.
art,
Sure.
nuclear arms, whatever it may be. They're trying to get in quickly, efficiently, quietly, undetected, without alarming anyone.
Right.
This group opens the doors and just comes in screaming.
Start shooting people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's unlike any heist movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's nothing.
In that regard. Because you would be thinking, well, why would they behave this way? Then you think, well, they've been doing drugs.
Yeah.
Eric and his crew have not just done drugs that night, but that's how they live.
That's how they live. Yeah.
And you get the, like we said, Zed, he might get drunk, maybe smoke pot, do hash now and again, but nothing heavy.
No, because again, there's that point. You could tell he's scared at one point. He's like, because he says, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
He says it in the movie.
The Town, that's a heist movie. Jackie Brown they have on the list.
The Town, yeah.
Drive, have you seen the movie Drive?
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that in a while either.
But that is 12 years old, so there's not,
Yeah.
Nothing heat. But a lot of the movies that they're mentioning are from the 90s. The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Point Break that's the 90s,
91, yep.
Yeah. Oh, so Point Break was prior to Killing Zoe, sure.
Quick Change, the Bill Murray movie. Have you ever watched that one?
I have, but I could.
Years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
So a lot of the movies on the list,
yeah.
This is a Esquire list. There's not a lot of recent.
Bank heists movies were big in the 90s.
Yeah.
Bank heists, heroin, and AIDS.
Yeah.
Apparently.
But there's been some, but there's not been a huge outpour
No.
of, Hell or High Water. Have you watched that one with Jeff Bridges? No, that's a good movie. I would suggest that one. No, that one, I'd forgotten about that one. But some of these that they'd mentioned, Inside Man, Lucky Logan, these are the Italian Job.
Yeah,
They're,
that's the job we mentioned earlier.
10, 15.
Yeah, they're all pretty old.
Or The Bank Job, my mistake, not the Bank Job's on here, not the Italian Job. But although the Italian Job would probably be on this.
I mean, it's a heist movie.
Right. And a lot of these on this list just are some kind of a heist.
Yeah.
So, would you recommend Killing Zoe?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you like nostalgic film, if you grew up in the '90s, it's definitely worth checking out.
I think so too.
It was very nostalgic to watch it again. And again, if you're a fan of like Tarantino kind of stuff, then it's got Tarantino all over it, right down to the fact that Boy Meets Girl, her being an escort.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's kind of a thing, like we mentioned, True Romance, same kind of. Patricia
Yep.
Arquette is a call girl or whatever when the movie starts.
That's true. And I was wondering when watching that if Roger Avery, because he had worked with Tarantino and Tarantino wrote True Romance as well,
Yeah,
if he had kind of taken, well, this has kind of worked in that movie,
yeah,
let's kind of put it in this.
yeah,
Because also Quentin Tarantino wrote Natural Born Killers, not what ended up on screen, but I'm sure the initial characters, and that was both, a male and a kind of a female, even though she wasn't, a prostitute.
yeah,
The character probably was a little slutty,
yeah. That's a
and-
crazy movie too.
yeah. So this is the Red Drugs is the name of this track.
Red Rugs. Yeah, and the movie is full of this stuff. Can they hear this?
Yeah. Not.
Oh,
they'll-
that is too bad.
They'll be if they can listen if they go to Spotify tomorrow.
Yeah,
the
because the movie's full of this kind of stuff. It's real, like, and some of it's subtle, like it's these beats, but it's still in the background.
Yeah.
So it's not like the dominant sound, but it's enough that you can hear it. And then other times, the music is straight up, like when Zed goes to work on the safe, and you can tell the music picks up and it gets louder. So
Yeah.
it becomes it's the dominant thing.
It's like the focal point.
And it's full of this real kind of trancey. It's not always, I said techno, but it's not always this upbeat stuff. Because when you open the show, is real.
And sometimes
It's
it
real chill.
transitions, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like that. But it's got like a 2-minute lead up, exactly a 2-minute lead up of kind of like trippy,
Yeah.
subtle.
Yeah,
Craziness.
just like the movie. It suits the movie.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think so too.
Absolutely perfect.
So yeah, I would recommend Killing Zoe if you haven't watched it before. Give it a chance. You found it with the Fire Stick
I
on
did
cinema.
Yeah, I did cinema.
I rented it on Vudu. I wish I'd have purchased it. I don't know why I just did the rent. $2 more, I could have just purchased it.
Yeah, and it's one of those it's worth watching.
It's worth $5.
Because I can remember when I first watched it. I think I watched it. I don't a lot. I watched it a lot. It impressed me that much at the time.
Yeah.
I was 17.
Yeah.
To the point that I was surprised how much I remembered of the movie that this much later.
Well, this also gives a little bit of hope. Also, if you think about it, to anybody that's really, because a heist movie is something that I've always been interested in doing. Always been.
Yeah.
In a heist movie, a lot in the 90s anyway, they did these because you could do a lot relatively cheaply.
Yes.
One location.
Yeah.
Like in Reservoir Dogs, there's one main location.
Yeah.
In this movie, one main location.
Yeah.
And there's several independent movies like that. But you could, this movie, I don't know how big the bank vault was or anything like that. I can only go by what we've seen in the movie.
Right.
But it's, we have access to a radio station. So let's make a movie based around a radio
station. Sure. Yeah.
So it would be cool to be able to have a place where you could be
Which
like,
you totally could actually.
yeah.
That could be that's tough.
It could be
a whole nother show.
We could do a heist movie.
This could be the whole location
Yeah.
of a movie right here.
Yeah.
And it could almost be a horror movie just with calling.
It really could.
And that's creepy stuff.
And we could do a heist
Yeah,
movie at the theater next door. So we have a couple options.
Sure.
But I think it would be a fun thing to do to actually pull off a fun heist movie. And this is
I can see that.
I would say this is a fun heist movie. It's violent, but it's not nearly as violent. Nothing that anyone hasn't seen before.
No. And again, when I watched it, it's the movie that got me interested in the idea of filmmaking
That's cool that it was.
as an art form and stuff, because it's impressive.
That's
Because,
very cool
you
that
can
it
tell-
was.
Again, you can tell it's low budget. It makes you wonder. Like, I wonder how long. I bet the movie was shot in a really short span of time.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember. I'm sure it's on the IMDb page, but it was less than 28 days.
Because I would imagine, like, I have a feeling a lot of that stuff was probably half unscripted. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
scenes, some of the dialogue.
Because I mean,
How do you script some of those conversations?
exactly.
You know what I
Especially
mean?
if you go and watch it, you would be like, this, like, I could tell the difference between this kind of dialogue and like Quentin Tarantino's dialogue, because if you listen to a lot of people that talk in everyday life, they don't talk anything like Quentin Tarantino's dialogue.
No,
Even
right.
though I love that dialogue.
Sure.
I aspire to talk like that every day,
Right.
But most people don't.
Right.
And this seemed not, his dialogue seemed a little more polished.
Yes.
And this seems a little bit more like what this could be really.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
it's all
real life
very
dialogue isn't clean and
No.
people talk over one another.
Yes, exactly.
And it's messy and it's not always like, funny quips and
Right.
witty banter.
right.
But we aspire for it.
Yeah, sure. Right.
I really do. I miss. I converse with a lot of people throughout the day, and not even putting anyone down or anything. But I was like, I miss like we have good
Yeah.
dialogue on here, and I enjoy
Agreed.
that.
Yeah.
And I do with a few other people in my life. But I was like, I wish, life sometimes had more like movie dialogue. And or sometimes throughout. I don't know if you ever do this, but sometimes I'll throw out dialogue from a movie in just the everyday conversation,
Sure.
just to see if anybody, but not something like Party on Wayne or Party on Garth.
Sure,
Not
sure.
something a little more obscure.
Yeah.
And most time, no
Like
one knows.
candy canes at Christmas.
Yeah. So yeah,
Somebody
Killing
will pick up on
Zoe.
that one.
I'm glad we did Killing Zoe.
Yes. No. Me too. It was good.
It was a good one to.
Well, it brings up other movies that are possibilities too, because like you could just pick Tarantino. So far, we would mention True Romance, which is a really good one too.
Yeah, so we've got. We're gonna say recommend this. So yeah, definitely go check
Yeah,
out Killing
absolutely.
Zoe. If you like this type of movie, I think you'd really enjoy it.
I do too, for sure.
So next week we have the movie Smile. I think Conchetta is going to join for that one, and then the week after, it might not be the week after because you're coming on every other week, right?
Right.
So what do you want to do? We don't have to decide tonight, but we can come up with something
Well,
within
we'll
the next
come up
few
with
weeks.
something. Sure.
And then the
sure.
week after that, we have Life as a House. Have you watched that movie?
I have not.
It's got Kevin Kline and Hayden Christensen. But it was I think it came out after the first Star Wars he was in. So it came out like 2002 or 3. And it's got one or two other names in it, but it's a good drama. So we have Smile next week. The week after, when Casey returns, is TBA.
Yeah.
And then Life as a House. We have, let's see what we have here. We have, go to Facebook, obviously, and check out the other people's show, as well as Spotify and YouTube. This episode will be up tomorrow on Spotify and YouTube, as well as many, many other episodes. So, thanks everyone for tuning
Yeah,
in.
enjoyed it.
And Casey, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's
Enjoyed
a
it.
great time. So everyone,
Yeah. Have a good night.
Bye.